Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne. This is my video coaching newsletter, and the topic of today's newsletter is going to be pulling back to reignite attraction. So I've got a partial email success story from a guy who originally found my work after he was in a slump for about 6 months. His cousin turned him onto it, and ever since then, he said it took about a year, but he met a really great girl that he considers his dream woman. And he's got a little bit more of a disadvantage than the average guy because he was in a catastrophic accident about 20 years ago, and it left him in a wheelchair. And what's great about him is that he hasn't let it affect him to the point where he doesn't participate in life. He just has a little bit more of a disadvantage than the other average guy has, and he's made a great life for himself. And I've got a podcast coming up that'll be released, probably just going to be in the members only part of my website, with a buddy of mine who he got run over about 5 years ago. He'd been drinking, he was pretty messed up, hopped on his motorcycle without a helmet, and then pulled out in front of a pickup truck, a Ford F-150 that was pulling a big trailer. And so he got run over and paralyzed from the nipples down. And obviously after he recovered from that accident, he's still the same cocky bastard that he was, that I've known for the last 12, 13 years. And so we did a podcast and had him on, and I love his attitude. He's like I said, he's the same guy, he just obviously can't walk anymore. And so what I like about this particular email is this guy's got a great attitude. But where he's running into a challenge, he's read the book, my first book, 3% Man. He says he's read it 20 times, and his girlfriend, now they've been together for years, talking about moving in together, she's talking about getting engaged. And from going through his email, I could tell he's still a little too robotic in the way he interacts with her. And so he's kind of developed a crutch, if you will, to where every time she gets a little too familiar with him, he just kind of pulls back, pretends to be busy, and then this reignites the attraction. And he's saying, and because he's using what he learned in the book as a technique and kind of acting like a robot instead of being instinctual and natural, now he's worried about what happens when we move in together, and I can't do that. Then she's going to lose interest, because this is what happened in his previous relationship. He was married, got divorced, and he's worried about her losing attraction for him when they're living together. So I thought it was a good email to go through, because obviously this is something that if you're going to live with somebody, if you're going to be in a long-term relationship, if you're going to get married, and you're using what you learned in 3% Man, you've got to wonder how you translate, how you keep that same vibe going. So I got a quote that I wrote, and then we'll go through his email. And the quote says, "Men are supposed to be strong, fit, confident, and certain of what they want to create for their personal and professional lives. The most attractive and desirable men have a purpose and mission that fills them with joy, passion, and fun. Women are a great complement to men who have their lives together, know what they want and why they want it. This causes women to feel safe and comfortable enough to follow their lead, submit to them, and be their greatest cheerleaders, advocates, and fans." The most important thing that guys have to do, and because I do a lot of phone sessions with guys that are in a relationship or married, and when things are going sideways, it's always the same reasons. They either stopped dating and courting the woman properly, or they didn't know how to communicate with them properly. And what a lot of guys do, they get married, they move in together, they stop working out, they stop hanging out with their friends. She complains a little bit about their friends or their hobbies or their interests, so they spend more time with her. And then 2-3 years have gone by, and then their whole lives revolve around the woman, and the guy is no longer who she fell in love with. And these guys often hear, it's like, "I don't even know you anymore," because they literally stopped being the guys that they were. And that's the biggest problem, is like you get into a long-term relationship, you're like, I'll go to the gym tomorrow, I'll go next week, I'll go on Monday. Yeah, I'm going to go to the store and get some healthy foods, make some juice, make some smoothies. And then the next thing you know, 6 months have gone by, and now all your pants are tight. and you're having to get new clothes because they don't fit anymore. You're like, it's just one belt size. 2 or 3 more years go by, 2 or 3 more belt size increases, and then at that point you're just kind of roommates, just kind of hanging out. And so the key is, you don't want, how do you avoid that? Well, discipline. You've got to have rituals. You've got to do things for you. And a lot of guys, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, work out because I'm going to get a girl. And then they get the girl, they stop working out, they stop taking care of themselves, they get rid of their friends because she complained about some of their friends, so they figure, oh, I don't want her to get her upset. And 2, 3 years have gone by and they're no longer the same dude. And so when I work with guys, I'm doing phone sessions with them that are in these situations, like getting to go back to being who they were, being the same guy they were that the woman fell in love with. You got to maintain your friends. You got to maintain your relationships. You got to maintain your body. You got to do all those little things, because the idea is you want her seeking your attention and validation. It's like you want to be at the point where your life is so busy and you're full, and you have activities obviously with her, but with other people, that you get so busy being you and living your life that sometimes she's like, hey, pay attention to me, pay more attention to me. And that's what you want. And when guys get into a relationship, especially when they're living with somebody, it's like then they start just, and it happens slowly. It doesn't happen in a few weeks or even a few months. It usually takes many months and years. But then they get to the point where the woman becomes the leader of the household. And she basically becomes the man in the relationship. And the guy's always waiting on her hand and foot, waiting for permission, waiting for her to tell him what they want to do, coming up with where they're going to go eat. And these things happen slowly. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. And next thing you know, you're in a loveless, sexist relationship for many years. I see it all the time. So this is good because it's like helps you to understand how this happens so you can avoid it. Because otherwise, if you don't, you just eventually, you live together long enough, you become roommates. Platonic roommates at that. And then eventually you find out your girl's sleeping with somebody else, or she leaves you for somebody else. So let's go through his email. He says, you, sir, have changed my life. I'm a severely disabled man from a catastrophic accident 20 years ago. I got married to the wrong woman in my late 20s. Lots of people have had that experience, my man. I knew in the back of my head it probably wasn't right. Everybody knows, deep down you know. Everybody has those feelings and they just ignore them. It'll be fine. I just got cold feet. It'll wear off. Women fell in love. We fell in love quick, got married after 2 years, and then divorced 4 years later. She used and abused, blah, 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 the same old not 3% man that is a nice guy story. Oh, and she cheated on me. So the other thing is, we know that you have nice guy tendencies because you admit that. And so the longer you're with a woman, you start to feel comfortable, you get complacent. And these things happen slowly over many months and years. And that's why you don't really notice it. The next thing you didn't know, you wake up and your wife's cheating on you. And you haven't had sex in a year or two. Anyway, back to Praise You. I was in a slump for about 6 months. My cousin turned me onto your book, and the rest is history. I would listen to that thing over and over when driving, and still to this day I plug it in probably once a month and listen to a section. I always pick up on something new. Probably been all the way through the book about 20 times. So I was single and mingling for about a year, going on dates 2 or 3 times a week, and I was getting decent at dating and being 3% man. I had a few I was really into but fucked things up with. But every relationship or dating experience was a time to grow. And I was able to look back and see where I fucked up and remind myself not to do that shit again. Yeah, you experience pain, and pain is life's way of letting you know that you're not doing it right. Or the way you're approaching it is not optimal. He says, then I met a complete babe. That checked off almost every box. Game on. I definitely have had the why did you say that points in the relationship, but always work shit out. It's going to happen. You're going to say something that hurts her feelings, and you're going to have to be able to make sure that she feels heard and understood. There's a video I did years ago called How to Communicate with Women Effectively, and obviously I also wrote about it in the book. We've been together for a year, and it's the happiest I've ever been, and we are crazy about each other, except for about a week after her period every month. On these 5 days or so, there's a drop. I believe it's due to her cycle. I usually don't really care 1 month. Then the second I pull back and it completely makes things fire up in intensity. So he says, my question is this. When we get married, she's giving me the signs and live together. How do I pull back to reignite things? Well, you're not doing it as a technique. And that's part of the problem. You're not supposed to do it as a technique. It's just supposed to be a natural thing. And what that tells me is you're not busy enough. You're still making this woman too much the center of your life. You're still seeking her attention and validation instead of the other way around. And if you set your life up properly as a man, you're busy to the point where she sometimes feels like you're not paying enough attention to her. And that's what you want. You want her to be like, oh, all you do is spend time at the gym with your friends and you don't spend enough time with me. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, baby. You know what? I'm going to take you out to dinner tonight. So that's what you want. You want that kind of a vibe where you're just busy. You got things happening. It's not that you're ignoring her on purpose. It's just you're totally focused on your purpose and your mission in life. That's got to be the most important thing. Because what you're doing right now is you're pretending to be busy, and then it has a positive effect on her attraction. Well, when you're living together, you have to really be busy doing something. And so there's some part of your life that is not optimized. Maybe you need to work harder. Maybe you need to spend more time with friends and family. Maybe you need to go out with the boys and have some beers one night a week or whatever it happens to be. You have to be busy living your life to the point where you're not hovering on every single thing that your girl is doing. And that's part of your problem, is you're completely focused on her. Does she like me? Is she still really into me or not? Instead of being an independent man, running your own life, who's sharing his completeness with his, hopefully, complete woman. So he says, right now, I just don't go over to her house or go on a spontaneous trip or say I'm busy next week with work. When we don't see each other, it reignites that fire. When we live together, I won't be able to not just see her for a 5-day period. He says, how do I keep that want to tear each other's clothes off, never fighting, always having fun, can't get enough of each other, fire alive when living with her? You still want to be busy. Right now you're faking it. You're faking being busy. And what you really need to do is look at your life, maybe pick up Mastering Yourself, my second book, and read that. Because there's obviously some part of your life where you've got too much time in your hands. Maybe you're neglecting your family. Maybe you need to go see your parents or your mom or your dad, or go spend time with or reconnect with some friends you haven't talked to in a while. That's the important thing, because right now you're presenting a false image to your girl, and it's not really who you are. And you're right to recognize that when you move in together, she's going to learn pretty quickly that you're not as busy as you claimed or pretended to be. So what's missing from your life? What are you not doing that you could be doing? It could be something as simple like when you're living together, it's just having to leave the house early in the morning because you got appointments, or you got to get to the office, or you got to drive all the way across town to meet a client, whatever it happens to be. You have to be busy living your life as a man, and you can't create the impression that you're a really busy guy when you're not, because then she's going to find out when you live together, and then you're going to be there all the time. Because again, if you go back to these older movies 60, 70 years ago, the men are always busy as fuck. They always got tons of irons in the fire. And I use this analogy a lot, though. It's a Wonderful Life movie, the George Bailey. He's got so many things going on. His dad's passed away, so now he's running the family business. Everybody in town wants some of his time. They're trying to get his attention and validation. They need something from him. Typically they need money or they need advice. He knows everybody, and he is busy as hell, and Donna Reed's character, the whole movie, is trying to get his attention and validation. And obviously, eventually, he's enchanted with her beauty and her looks, and then they live happily ever after. But the point being, he's a man about town. He's got tons of things going on. Not only is he running the business, but he's going to meetings. He's got the old, was it Potter, the old man Potter, who's always trying to put him and his family business out of business so he can run everything in the town. And so there's lots of things going on. He's got big goals. He's got big dreams. Obviously, you throw kids in the mix. You got to take care of your kids. You got to take them to school. You got activities. Your life's gonna be filled up with doing things independent of each other. And so when you do get together and you do see each other, then you can really spend some good quality time together. So looking at your email, it just tells me that you're not focused on your mission and purpose as much as you could be. And so therefore, you need to circle back to that and get back in that. Really get into what it is that you do. Are you spending time with your friends and your family? Have you let some of those relationships go? A lot of guys do that. They get into a relationship and then they're happy with their girlfriend. They blow off all their friends and family and hardly ever see them. And then as the years roll by, those friendships just start to die and wilt, because it's like a garden. You got to water it. You got to give it fertilizer. You got to give it the proper sunlight. It's just like a child. If a child doesn't get attention from his parents, he's going to misbehave. And it's the same thing with your friendships. If you don't spend time with people that you care about, eventually those relationships die, especially when you take that, when you look at, like me now, I'm 51. And I look at all the people that I hung out with when I was in my early 20s versus where are those people now. Only a handful of them are still in my life, and most of them have faded away. It's the good friends really stick around and really make the effort. But when you have good friends and you just don't make the effort, the decades roll by, and next thing you know, you've lost touch. And then you got nothing going on in your life. He says, I use pullback as a tool now. I plan hot, awesome dates. I lead interactions in the bedroom, and I keep the 70-30 rule, and I let her chase me. I work my butt off in real estate, and man, the shit that I do well, but it scares me to not have that pullback tool to reignite things. Gotta have a busy life, dude. There's other things you could be doing, because right now you're presenting a fake image to her that's not really real. So what more could you give to your purpose and your mission in life, or to your friends, or to your family, or to your hobbies, or the things that you do for fun? You have to have a really full life. He says, I never want to go back to the, oh, we just kind of like each other, live together, and have sex sometimes, the no passion lifestyle that my old relationship was. Well, that's part of being a well-rounded man and having all areas of your life banging on all cylinders, because you're putting the effort and the time with them. So you obviously got way too much time in your hands, dude. So you got to ask yourself, what am I not doing that I could be doing? How can I be focused more on growing my business, enriching my friendships with the people that I care about, doing fun things for hobbies and leisure time with other people besides your girlfriend? I'm not saying you should ignore her or exclude her. You just want to have such a busy, full life to the point where she's trying to get your attention and your validation more, so you can include her more in your plans and more in your life. But if you're just sitting at home acting like you're busy when you're not, it's like you need to re-examine your life. So if you'd like to get my help personally, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.